Well, it's now 10:30 and time for brainstorming the human connection, brought to you by the South Dakota uh, Humanities Council. And we're going to be talking about vacations and tourism. We're going to be having some very interesting, how do you say, expositions about some of the interesting things you might be able to do right here in sunny South Dakota, where yeah, the land of infinite varieties, as we like to call ourselves, and we do have a variety of things that we can do. Before we get started, at the end, we're going to end as usual at 11:30, but right after that, stay on. After I close the thing, even though I say goodbye, it's not the real goodbye. We're going to have our One Book South Dakota has been chosen, and we're going to have a short conversation about that One Book South Dakota. Jennifer is going to join us with the author of that book, and we're going to have a short discussion about that and try to get you up to date. You'll be one of the first to know, as they say. And our guest today, our illustrious guest, is Tianna Yellow Hair. Even though her hair is not yellow, but her name is Yellow Hair. um, Hello, Tianna. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Tianna is in the tourism business. And I really love to see when young people get like their own business and they start, they don't wait till they get 50, 55 or something like that. And, you know, digging their own grave, just before and then decide to start a business. Young people getting to start a business. And it's especially nice when it's in an area or in a community that is not only are we in a flyover state, but flyover community. And then they're saying, hey, look, we got something here. We are doing things here. And you hear so many, sort of like, oh, I don't know, violin stories about the Rez. Not that there aren't violin stories and worse, but there are lots of good things happening and lots of people who are in the struggle and are succeeding in it. And it's especially gratifying when young people are saying, this is our place, this is our home, and we're going to make something out of it. We're going to find ideas, and we're going to change things. We're going to make something useful. And today we have Tianna Yellow Hair, and she's a young woman who is doing just that. And we invite you to have a conversation with her. I'll remind you that this is not a couple of talking heads kind of program. This is a conversation. That's when the magic happens. Is when you have questions, you have comments, and be thinking, especially in this case, about how you might help put some wind in Tiana's sails as far as like what she's trying to do with her business and how you can spread the word, spread the message, and maybe even participate yourself. So, welcome, Tianna. How are you doing today?
Um, I'm fine. Thank you for noticing my hair isn't yellow. Um, I get that question a lot. Why yellow hair? I don't have blonde.
I was surprised. It's like when you came, what?
Hmm.
Where's?
Yeah. And maybe that's a story that I'll share with you. If
Oh,
we,
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead,
yeah.
because that's the first question I was going to ask you is, who is Tiana Yellowhair?
Okay. So are we ready to get started then?
We are started already.
All right. So first I'd like to say a pivot is shiv or ampetu washte. So hamidake bi chante washte na pe chiuza biksto washichiye michajeki Tianna Yellow Hair eye lokotia michajeki shahila wi exto na wazi aha hamakoche na mini opta oyanke awati na shahila na lakota. Now In the beginning, I addressed you and had said a pivot shiv in the Cheyenne language. This means it is a good day because I am also part Northern Cheyenne as well as part Oglala Lakota. And I also introduced myself in Lakota for the non-language speakers. So I had greeted you, good morning. I greet you with a heartfelt handshake. My English name is Tianna Yellow Hair, and my Lakota name is Shahilawi, meaning Cheyenne woman. And I also had told you that I come from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, or people like to call one of the reservations here, or Ogallala country. But I formerly come from and I live in what is called Allen, South Dakota, or the Pass Creek District. If anybody knows where Allen, South Dakota is, we are very, very small. So good morning. And yeah, so I guess I was asked, if I wanted to be a part of this to kind of talk a little bit about Tatanka Rez Tourz and, kind of who we are, what we do, our history. And so how I'd like to start it is and we've been in business since 2015. Now, the beginning of Tatanka Rez Tourz, I was ready to graduate high school back in 2012. I was a junior, I had enough credits and I wanted to leave. I wanted to get a good head start in college. That was something that I've always wanted. And but I knew that I needed scholarship money for college or monies in general. And so I had decided that I was going to find scholarships, and our local CDFI, if you will, Lakota funds here in Kyle, South Dakota, was having what they called a business plan competition at our Lakota Nation Invitational that year. And I decided, well, it's a scholarship and maybe it's a business plan competition, so it'll give me a little bit of a challenge. And of course, my father, who couldn't be on here today, sorry about that. He's doing something right now. But he had started out as a consultant tour guide, and he was already doing tours of the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And my father, although he likes to not brag about himself, would be considered a Lakota elder. And he really devoted his life to teaching the history, the culture, the language. I mean, he teaches for the Oglala Lakota College. He works for Thunder Valley. So he does an array of things that have culture, history, language, all intertwined in that. And so he started to bring those to the tours. Now, I had said, I'd come to him and said, well, I want to get some scholarship money. I want to do a business plan. And what is this? What do you think would be a successful business plan? And he said, what about tourism? Tourism is happening, whether we like it or not. It's coming to the reservations. It's coming to South Dakota. So he said, what about cultural tourism? Is that something that we can do? So I sat down with him. Of course, I had a lot of teachers from my high school who had wanted to see me succeed. And so a lot of them helped guide me along the way. Came time to the competition. I did present Tatanka Rez Tourz as my business plan. I felt that I didn't do very well. My first time doing any type of competition. And so I went home. I came home to the reservation because, of course, this was held in Rapid City at that time. And the next morning I woke up and I had got a call. I had missed calls. I had a text. I had an email, and I won. I won first place. And that they liked the idea so much that they gave me a higher scholarship amount. So of course, I was very happy about that. I still felt that I could have did some things better. Of course, we all feel that way in anything we do. But it wasn't until 2015 that me and my father had really started to take this more or less under our wing and say, hey, this is something we really need to do. So it came around 2015, Tatanka Rez Tourz started. Now, of course, this is a out-of-pocket upstart business, really whatever we had to our name, we utilized that towards this business, and it started out that way. It took a long time. I'm going to be honest. It took a long time for someone as young as me, and of course my father along the way, to really gain support from people around me, from my family, from my friends, my colleagues, and people that I went to school with, and other organizations. It took a while for them to understand what we bring to the table and who we are as Tatanka Rez Tourz. So that,
When you say a long time, what do you mean? Two
it
weeks, three
no,
weeks?
it actually took about 4 years. before we were able to be seen as somebody, so our a organization or a small business, to come to the table and say, okay, we want you to do some cultural presentations for us, but we're going to pay you to do it. Because for a long time we were doing cultural presentations, and it was, for us, it was free of charge. For us, it was advertisement to show who Tatanka Rez Tourz really was. And it wasn't until 4 years later that people started to see, well, we really do what we say we're going to bring. And we go 110%. And one of the things that I really like to stress about Tatanka Rez Tourz, is how we do our tours. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Now, in around 2019, we were really wondering, how can we make our experience one of the best experiences you've ever had, or it's something in that range. And so we had started to brainstorm, how can we make that a reality. Of course, my father has, and I'm really sorry that he couldn't be here. I really wish he would have. My father he uses humor as a way of introducing himself to people, and that's just how he is. So we had decided, well, we weren't just going to be any regular tour guides. I've been on tours in my life, and a lot of them are scripted. They have scripts, they have to follow them, they have to go by what is told. For us, it was more than that. It was more than a script. It was, so Tatanka Rez Tourz, our mission and our value and our goal was to tell our history the way we know the history, by oral stories, to tell our stories, right, from our perspective, because there's a lot of stories out there about Lakota people, who we are, some of our creation stories, some of our virtues, some of the, everything that you see about Lakota people that you can find online is told by a non-native person. So we had the idea that we really wanted to be authentic. So how do we do that? And that was to tell our own stories. And so Tatanka Rez Tourz took that, and we intermersed language, we intermersed history, culture, as well as past and current situations on Pine Ridge. So Tatanka Rez Tourz is really a family-owned business. And when I say that, it's more or less a experience that someone wouldn't necessarily get. My children accompany me on the tour so much that my daughter wants to do this type of work now. She'd rather be on a tour than go to school. So I don't know if that's really a good thing or not, but and so it's more or less getting to know who our visitors are one-on-one. We do things a little bit differently at Tatanka Rez Tourz. An experience with us is different than what one or two of you may have. And I know that they'd put some links in here to some of our Facebook. There's some testimonials on there, some reviews about some of the experiences that we share. And I don't like to toot my own horn, but, within the last few years, I've recently started to hear, what people were saying about the experiences that they have with us. And I'm going to be honest, our tour, we don't sugarcoat anything. We give you the raw truth, and sometimes that hurts. Sometimes that is very emotional. And so our visitors leave Tatanka Rez Tourz, the reservation, after they finish a tour at Wounded Knee Massacre site, because we tell the true history of Wounded Knee and what that entails. And it's very emotional. People leave crying from our tour. And it wasn't until within the last year or so that I realized that this is the effect that we're having on people. And it's not just something that I'm going to go home and tell them, while I came to South Dakota, I saw a tour and it was okay. A lot of these people, tell me, and they reach out back to us through email, through phone calls, and through Zoom calls that they have with us. You left me crying. And for a while I used to think, well, that was, like that's not possible. But and it's really hard. And I'm not saying that to stray anybody from a tour with us, because I encourage everybody here, if you've never been, not only to Ogallala country, to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, there are 9 reservations in South Dakota. So you are more than welcome, and we encourage people to visit us, visit our reservations, hear our stories. But if you've never been on a tour and you're in our area, reach out to us, because I can honestly tell you that it's a life-changing experience.
The experience that you're talking about, bringing that to people and bringing people to it, is so very important in today's world when people are trying to do everything they can to cover up the history. And I think of it as like, water in cement. It's like you can have a cement wall, but if you have water on the other side, the water finds a way to leak through. You know,
Yeah.
uh, the water finds a way. And I think that this is one example of truth finding a way. It's finding a way. And I think I'm really so happy to hear that you guys are doing those kind of tours because it is the antidote to people trying to shut people up, and
Yeah.
change the history. And it's like in many ways, it's more powerful than if they mention it in a paragraph in the history book.
Yes.
So kudos to you.
And thank you. And so I really appreciate that, because we've come across within the last 8 years of business, not so good compliments because of the truth, and as a business owner, somebody who could take constructive criticism, and what we could do better as tour guides. What does that look like? And we're constantly told, don't get so much in your emotions, but on a tour with us, that's how it is. And so
Yes.
to kind of back that up, what I'd like to do is anybody that's on here, after the new year, we're currently re-adding a lot of things to our website. I saw that the link is in there. So this website is actually ran from outside of South Dakota, from actually Ohio. A family friend is running this website for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to be updating testimonials or reviews, if you will, from people from 2015 to 2023. And what this is going to show you is their experience with us, whether that was an hour with us, whether that was a 3-hour tour. And so to kind of break way for that, I know one of my talking points was, what does an experience usually entail with Tatanka Rez Tourz? People often ask, well, when I go to your website or I go to your Facebook page, I don't see tour packages. I don't see cost. I don't see what is it that I can come to the reservation, and what am I going to be able to see while I'm there? So the reason that we're a little bit different is that we really tailor it to our visitors' needs, whether they are interested in history. Maybe as an example, a few of our visitors were only interested in the current situations that were happening on Pine Ridge, the land back issue, the water issue, a lot of our governance, the OST governance that we have. A lot of people were just interested in, they didn't want to hear history, and that's fine. But and that even what they have suggested as something that they're interested in, even that is still really heart pulling to hear those truths about what the reservation is, what life is like here. So every person, I guess to sum it up, their experience is going to be different. We really tailor it to your time, what time you have to spend with us. I can tell you, I cannot do a tour in an hour. I've tried it. The reservation is just too spread out. We are 9 districts across 100 miles long and 50 miles wide. So it's very hard, to do that in an hour. But we do offer 1-hour presentations, 1-hour sits to talk with you, answer any questions about the reservation that you might not know of. And then we also go as far as 4 or 5 hours a day. And then we've recently started to do 2 to 3 day tours, 1 day on the reservation, 1 day in the Black Hills, 1 day in the Badlands. We really adapt it to not only your time, your budget, but as well as your interest in the reservation and what that looks like. And so it's going to be different for everybody. We can't say that your experience is going to be the same. But 2 more talking points that I have, and one of them is we really are integrated into our community, and whether that's the community I live in or the people or the other 8 communities on Pine Ridge, you can think of them as small towns. We call them communities. The idea is that when we have someone that wants a tour and they want, say, an add-on, which is, I want to see powwow dancing, I want to request flora and fauna tours, right? I want to see the Lakota star knowledge. I want to see specifically the Badlands. So what we do is we reach out to people that we've known through our family, through maybe past jobs that we've worked with together, And we bring in dancers, we bring in presentations, we bring in people to present on these presentations. So it's not just my father and I, really broadening that horizon to add other people to these tours so that they get a little bit of opportunity to share their story, for one, opportunity to make themselves money, for two, but also an ideal to understand what it is to interact with someone who is not native. Because I can guarantee you, over half of the people on my reservation don't really have a big engagement with non-native people, and any people of any background, whatever it is. They don't really understand that connection, that networking. And so this is giving them that opportunity to do that. So we really reach out to do that. We also, in the next year and a half, we're looking to expand to bring young people on to do these tours. Right now, it's just myself. My father actually has a full-time job, and so I do the tours on my own. And it's really hard to get, some people engaged in tourism. What does cultural tourism look like? How can that benefit me? How does that benefit my family, my community? What are those, right? What are the pros and cons of cultural tourism? Because unlike most places, reservations are not ready for tourism. They're getting there, but they're not at the forefront and saying that tourism is my top thing right now. So the idea is to integrate cultural tourism to let them know this is what opportunities that it can make. And so I guess along those lines, one of the questions we get is talk about foreign visitors. What does that look like? What is your interaction with a lot of the people who are coming from outside of the United States? We've actually had a couple groups, and one of them was China House Enterprises. If nobody's really familiar with that, you can Google them. But they are a research group that comes out, an organization, nonprofit, that comes to these different places in the world to basically a schooling for the summer to see what they can do to help the places that these rural communities, whether it's access to water, clean drinking water, whether it's access to computers so that they can continue learning. And so they came out this year. It was like a pilot program. And they did very well. They were asking about issues such as MMIW, missing and murdered Indigenous women. We also pushed that, the awareness of that. We also pushed the treaties, the awareness of the supreme law of the land, the treaties with the Lakota that the government made. They also were helping with housing issue. What is going on with the housing on Pine Ridge? And so that's one of them. We also had a few visitors from England. We also had a few visitors from from Switzerland. We also had a few visitors from Italy. So we're really working our way to what is that going to look like in 2024. We've closed down for the season in October, and we've had to extend our business hours due to people coming in different times of the year. But I can tell you with full confidence that we already have about 20 tours lined up, and a lot of them, of the 20, 19 of them are foreign visitors. Whether they're groups, whether they're one or two people that are coming out, they're ready to come out in 2024. A lot of them are staying longer than 1 to 2 days. Many of them are wanting 3 to 4 weeks to be here, to immerse themselves in Lakota culture, history, language, and what is that going to look like? So that doesn't just provide opportunity for myself, for my father, but also for people that we would potentially bring in to tell stories, to help set up, we call them the background people. What does that look like? Gathering the supplies for us, making sure that it's ready for us to actually interact with these people. So it's not just an opportunity for ourselves. It's an opportunity for people around us to be engaged in what we're doing. So we're looking to a good year in 2024, and looking to see what that looks like as well. Yeah, and I think the only really thing that I have to add to what Tatanka Rez Tourz initially does is we really push cultural awareness. What does that look like? History. Because a lot of people come to the reservation and don't know MMIW, don't know the treaties, don't know the housing issues, don't know, we call them social detriments of health. what does that look like here on reservations? And a lot of them are I can tell you, are very taken back by what they see. And I've lived here my entire life, and having to go through that and explain to them, like, this is everyday life for Lakota people. And I'm sorry that you don't agree with it, but this is how it is. And
Yeah.
it's really refreshing, because um it's not showcasing and showing off a people, but educating them,
Yeah.
about who we are. So that's really what Tatanka Rez Tourz does, and that's what we're striving to do. We're in the process of building up to actually supporting and being able to um, offer stays, so TP stays, campground type deal. We're in the process of that. We're right in the middle of it. There's a few roadblocks that have come up, but we're really pushing forward to make sure that we have that in 2024, because we didn't have that last year, and it really hurt not only ourselves, but a lot of the entrepreneurs on Pine Ridge, who, whether they own a business or they recently started one, because whether we don't know it or not, every one of us is in some type of tourism business. We have people that come to our stores. We have people who we have family who work in these stores. So we all have a hand in tourism, and we don't realize that. So yeah,
Right.
that's in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Okay, we got lots more in that nut to uncase, but I want to give our esteemed panel and guest here, all of our folks here, a chance to interact with you and ask questions, comments, sign up for your tour or whatever. So everybody, who wants to go first? Betty, you look like you have your microphone off. You want to
Um,
go first?
yes, please. Good morning, Tianna. Thank you so much for bringing us this information. Tell me a little bit about accommodations. Say just, 3 or 4 friends come to Pine Ridge and want to spend a couple of nights there and take a tour. And I'm talking about a group of women who like to go painting outdoors, and I think this would be a great thing to do at Pine Ridge. And I've never been there, I'm sorry to say, but I live clear on the other corner of the state. So tell me a little bit about your accommodations.
Well, so we're in the process of building the accommodations. So we don't currently have them. We're hoping to have them in late 2024. And that's one of the things that really holds our reservation back, is our accommodations are very sparse. For the Pine Ridge Indian reservations, for the ones that haven't been here, we have a casino that, people, and most people want to kind of stray away from the casino. I could get that anywhere else. I want a different experience. We have a family who owns cabins that are more central to the reservation, and they're very, very much open, ready for business. Of course, you do have to reserve them in advance, because people are coming out here and they're already making plans to stay. Thunder Valley Community Development Corporation, if anybody's very much knows who they are, or kind of have an idea of who they might be, you can also Google them. My father works for them, but they have a bunkhouse that that has like a kitchen, has restrooms, has showers, and you can rent them as well. So for accommodations, that's really what that is. We do offer TP stays. Of course, some people want that and some people don't, because it's a little bit rougher style of sleeping. Of course, we have access to showers and restrooms and laundry and things like that through one of our community buildings here in Allen, and they're more than welcome to allow people to utilize that. But for right now, those are the accommodations that are available on Pine Ridge. And that, I can be honest with you, that has delayed business, not just for us, but many people here on Pine Ridge, because they're staying in Rapid City, or they're staying somewhere that's an hour to 2 hours to get to the reservation. So
Well,
initially,
the
we don't very much.
excuse me. The bunkhouse sounds like it'd be right up our alley. And are there cafes? Is there a cafe, grocery store?
So we do have a grocery store. It is located on the more southern end of the reservation. Now, so many people that do come to stay, when they can find accommodations, will bring in stuff from, like, say, Rapid City. They'll buy there and make sure that they have it when they get there to the reservation. Otherwise, we have a few cafes in the town of Kyle, South Dakota. And many of them, actually all of them, all three of them, are ran by families in the actual area. So it's a family business, and a lot of people wondering, well, what am I pouring my money into? But they are going to these families, and it is initially helping these families in those communities. So
So
other
you
than
guys don't you guys don't have DoorDash then?
no DoorDash. But we have actually on tours, we have actually we reach out to community members in our community who want to make some money, so they're able to provide like a more traditional meal. And we'll offer that on the tour. Of course, that is added into the cost. But what that does is that gives you an opportunity to have something that you wouldn't necessarily find at a cafe. But most people are not really acquired to the taste of buffalo soup. So not
What?
everybody, not everybody will eat it. So yeah, and some people have diet restrictions, so maybe that's
Yes,
not
I do.
for them. But we do offer that, and it is given to people if they want it. So
That
Yeah.
sounds
If you
great.
haven't had if you haven't had buffalo soup, then maybe you're considered culturally deprived, you know.
yeah,
Definitely. Thanks so much. That sounds great.
thank you for
Sharon, did you have something you want to say or ask? Turn on your microphone. That will help.
that.
I thought I did. I like buffalo hamburgers, but
Mhm.
I'm a bit handicapped. Um, like I have to use two canes, and uneven terrain is harder for me or slower. So I would hold a group up, if they're walking from, let's say, from the road to the Wounded Knee Monument. Um, I so how do you have any, and getting into a bus with the multiple steps, I can do it, but people in back of me have to be a little patient. What have you factored in the how to accommodate people with some handicapped, not wheelchair? I mean, that is really difficult.
Yeah. So actually what we do is we don't actually have specific groups that we would put, say like if for your instance, we wouldn't put you with a large group in the sense is because we make every experience more, I guess, tailored to these visitors. So say you came on your own, that's not really an issue. I've done a lot of tours that way, and what we really do is we extend the time. So we'll have this conversation of we need to extend the time because we know that it's going to be a little bit for you to get in and out of the vehicle. There's not a lot of walking involved in this because what we do is we really get up and close to the places that we're seeing. So it's initially just getting out of the vehicle, and you're like, I want to say 10 steps from where we're actually gonna talk, what we're gonna see. And so it's not necessarily you have to walk like 4 miles.
Yeah.
And we do offer those types of tours, but for the ones that aren't able to, we really accommodate. Okay, so we need to stay closer to the area that we're going to. And we do have a van that we do take people around in. Now, what we do though is that if we don't put groups together unless both of the parties are okay with this. So if I have two groups of people who want to do a tour, and I've had this happen, and it's the same time, same day, and that's the only day that they both have, I will ask both of them on my end if that's okay. If they're not okay with that, if one of them is not okay, then we try to find a way around that. And we have done it in the past. We've never had to lose business because of it, but we've also put groups together, and they're fine with it. They're ecstatic to be together because it's more people. So it is a lot more work that way, though. I can tell you, I've done 3 tours in one day, ending a tour, rushing to the next location to meet the next group, and then ending that tour and rushing to the other location. So it is a lot of work. But I signed up for it. I wanted to do it, and I enjoy what I do. I'm very passionate about tourism, and so for me, I'm okay with that. But we really accommodate to you. So if that's something like, say, you wanted to do, we can make that happen. So it's not like strenuous on you. So we really tailor it to your accommodations and your preference.
Thank you.
Yes.
Annie, you look like you have a oh,
There,
you're going to say
yes, there is a Kobe had asked me to talk a little bit about working with SDNTA. And I actually was going to mention that. So a little bit. So I am a new
well,
board
first
member.
tell us what SD.
Oh, yes,
Tell
yes.
us what that.
So SDNTA is South Dakota Native Tourism Alliance. Some people may have heard about it a little bit. Where we 2019, I believe, is when we started to come together. So what it is SDNTA is the Ad Havoc organization right now. We're not a full nonprofit, but we're moving into that stage. Now, the idea is tourism, cultural tourism. What is that going to look like? Can we get, the reservations ready for tourism? So from what I understand is that George Washington University, the International Studies of Tourism, they were given a grant and they were given a time frame to come on to the reservations to try to bring tourism to the reservations and cultivate that. What does that look like? Not just from designing tours, but also the pricing, the packaging, the advertising, and what does that look like in rural communities? And so they reached out, of course, to the people here on Pine Ridge, to the people on all the other 8 reservations to say, can we come together as a small organization or of sorts? And so we did. In 2019, they started the meetings. We have quarterly meetings in person on Zoom. We used to have weekly coffee chats. So now we are a full-fledged board. So there are about 6 of us that are board members. So I'm a new board member to this. And we've been really paving the way for cultural tourism. And what is that going to look like in the coming years? Like I said, we had a 5-year business plan in the idea, and it's coming to fruition. And everyone is volunteers. I can say that everybody that's involved in this, it's not just Native people. We have a lot of alliances and partnerships that are non-Native. We have, I believe, the USDA, and of course George Washington, and we also do a little bit and ask for advice from the NDNT, the North Dakota Native Tourism Alliance, and we also have some people that are coming from there to help us with SDNTA. So SDNTA really is trying to pave the way for tourism, and what is that going to look like? We do have on the board, we do currently have a few members who represent 5 of the reservations out of the 9. So we're really looking to expand that, as well as our partnerships and our members. What is that going to look like? How do we stay involved? And so we're really looking to that. And the idea is that, and I like to say this a lot, but is to show our partners that we're not walking behind you. You're not walking in front of us, but we have enough as Native people and educated to stand at the table beside you and show what we can bring to that. What we can bring to the table, what we can, what we can add to this conversation as educated Lakota people. So initially that is the idea of SDNTA, and that's kind of what we're doing. So if anyone has any questions, I can answer them about it if you guys want to know more. But of course, it doesn't cost anything to be involved. And even what that involvement looks like is to just keep updated on tourism in South Dakota, because it is now the number one industry, surpassing agriculture. So
really?
Yes. Yeah, it's been really growing, and that brings up the question for me. And I didn't forget about you, Annie. It brings up the question: are you participating in the greater tourism industry? Are you a part of the? Will you be, for example, at the conference in the next month or so?
At the governor's conference.
Yes, right.
Yes. So we actually go there every year. SDNT does go. We actually have our quarterly meeting in person before that, before the day or two before the governor's conference. And then we also are Travel South Dakota, of course, which is now used to be South Dakota Tourism Office. They're they're one of our largest partners. They put a lot of their funding, matching our funding from the grant that we received to help us engage in tourism. And one of the other ones is Calvin from Travel South Dakota, who's really been important in paving that way for us, getting us ready, reaching out to these partnerships. So they're actually going to be allowing us to attend the governor's conference like they have within the last few years. So if anybody is there at the governor's conference, we will have all of our material from all of the the entrepreneurs, a lot of their organizations, and we're actually going to be there to not just myself and my father, but people from the SDNTA who you can talk with, who you can exchange information with. Maybe there's some project that you're thinking about, or maybe there's some collaboration that you want to do. So we'll actually be there to answer questions and get to know you guys a little bit better if you're going to be there. So
that would be a great partnership, I would think, even for the International Vinegar Museum, which we have here in Roslyn. I think our first festival, Kevin Locke was, who's left us, but Kevin Locke was he did a hoop dance and talk about a lot of cultural things in the process of doing the hoop dance, introduce a lot of native cultural ideas to the audience. And I can see we have tried to do that again, but he's always been out of the country. He had been always out of the country, and now we don't have that option. But that I would think those are the kinds of things that we can find ways to interact. Certainly.
Yep.
Annie, you had a question or a comment? Your mic is off though.
Yeah, I just got the sign on my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Colby, and for Tianna's answer about the connection to the cultural or through tourism. And I just want to commend your work, and knowing I've been involved with cultural tourism and various aspects of state work that I've done and completed at arts councils around the West. And it's so critical to have the voice of the local community speak to tell their own story. And sometimes it's very hard to get people committed locally to do that. So then it ends up being, a different version of retelling of history. So I really commend an organization taking this on, and it can be viable. And there's lots of discussions about how to make cultural tourism sustainable so it doesn't increase too much and take over. But I think there's just so much growth right now that I don't see that, necessarily happening in the near future. I wanted to bring, I want to ask a question, but I want to bring up a strategy that I learned about that comes from an island in Scandinavia that has a strong cultural component. People love going there because they love the local culture, they love the local architecture, but it did get overburdened with people coming, and the local community couldn't. It was just changing what made the community so attractive, and they adopted an agreement that to come and visit and stay, you agree to adhere to certain cultural ideals, like that it's sustainable, you won't leave anything, there's a whole list of things like we welcome you here, but you are a guest, and so here are some appropriate behaviors as a guest. We want you here, we want your money, we want you to stay, but we also want you to leave, and leave respectfully. So it's just, I thought it was, and I'm sorry I don't remember the exact details, but it was just a beautiful way of writing down how we negotiate those cultural boundaries and the shifting of boundaries. But I was wondering two things about tourism and cultural tourism out where you are. Are there a lot of tours that come and visit that aren't Native organized? So, bus tours stopping at Red Cloud Heritage Center before they go to the Badlands, but they drive through, the rest of the state. And then also, are you seeing through your work that other people are starting to want to host families or have homestays and things like that on the reservation? Do you see some competition building, and is there kind of pushback about who gets to show what and when? So that kind of those two negotiations, the outsider visitors and then the dynamics of inside.
Yes, thank you. So, there are an influx of visitors that are not taking a tour with Tatanka Rez Tourz, and we noticed that a lot of them are, a good majority of them, so about half, 50% of them don't really have enough information to reach out to, say, myself, my father, or Red Cloud, which is now, it's no longer known as Red Cloud, it's Mahbia Luta. They're going through a name change. But they don't have the information to reach out to say, hey, we're bringing a busload of people and we want to see you. We need a guide to step on to talk about culture while we're going through the reservation. There are a few of those, and we've encountered them. And the way I've encountered them is I'm actually maybe finishing up a tour, and the end of my tour is very emotional, very emotional. So, doing that part of the tour and then having a tour bus pull up on me while we're doing that, and having an actual emotional connection with, say, my family of 3 or family of 4, a lot of them are astounded to know that we do this as a business. And we had no idea. So I do know that there are busloads that are coming through that are not organized by whether it's a native business, a native tour guide business. But that's really hard to do because we are actually the only native owned and operated licensed. So we pay taxes to the state and the tribe that are within the 5-state area. So we're the only ones that are doing it on the level that we're actually licensed to do this. And so, but at the same time, a lot of the tours that do come to us fully are not organized by us. About 50% of our tours, like say buses or things like that, come from the Chamber of Commerce in Pine Ridge, or the Pine Ridge Area Chamber of Commerce. Of course, they're not open now this year, I believe, but the director, he actually helped my father get started in tourism. And so he knows to reach out to us if he has a group that wants to come through the reservation and wants culture. And then we also have people throughout the organizations that we've worked through. We've done several presentations for them throughout the reservation and throughout the years that they are very confident in sending them our way, as well as Mahbia Luta, so Red Cloud Heritage Center. She is the lady there. The few ladies that are there really bring, if you want to get a tour, then you, through the reservation, you need Gus and Tianna. So, well, one way or another, they end up with us. So that's the first part of your question. The second part, and I think it's also in the comments too, to answer your question and to answer, I believe her name is Tara. She said, have you received any outreach back to Alan from doing the tours? But I think yours was a little bit more of like pushback from the communities. Yes. It's really, it's very it hurts me to say that since I began the tour business, and I really struggled with this. My father was the type of person, and still is, to say, well, hey, we're doing it to educate, we're doing it to bring awareness. So what's the problem? But for me, like I said, I didn't get no support from my community members on tourism and cultural tourism. All my support, I can tell you, comes from outside the state of South Dakota. My visitors, and I have visitors who come back every year. Sometimes they come 4 or 5 times a year, and that's a steady business for me. But they honestly are my support system. And it wasn't until 2021 did we start to see some support from the people on the reservation, whether that was from the tribe, because now with SDNTA, the tribe sends a liaison to these meetings, and they're starting to get the idea of tourism. They want to be a part of tourism. What is that going to look like for them? So we started to, I guess you could say, paving the way for what tourism could really look like. But we had to learn along the way. I can tell you, it was really hard for me. I don't have a business background, and learning to do taxes was hard for me. And so I didn't have nobody to turn to. I didn't have nobody to turn to about what if something went wrong in my tour guide business. We had to learn that on our own. But being able to share what we've learned, those tips and tricks as business owners with other people, has been our goal, because we didn't have that. And so there was a lot of pushback. But I can honestly say at the end of this last week, we recently found out, and this is not something that I'm not really sure if I've kind of struggling with myself if I want to share, but we did through our business at the end of this year from 2019 to 2023, our business has brought in $250,000 to the reservation, and whether that's grants. We had a few people, these people that come from outside of South Dakota that come 4 times a year have actually donated to the college, Oglala Lakota College. They've donated a huge grant that was able to bring scholarships to the students. They've also donated to the Thunder Valley Community Development Corporation, less than 50,000. So it's, we, and scholars and wood donations, bringing wood to families. So it amounted to about 250,000. And for us, I think that was a turning point for us, because we were able to not only employ ourselves, but also to bring at least some hope to our people. And what did that look like, So it for us, it's been a journey. I can tell you it wasn't easy. In the 8 years, I'm starting to realize that, and I like to say this because this is true. We're not, people accuse us of selling our culture, and that's the blatant truth of it. But for us, it's education, awareness. And my father says, don't get too hung up on it, because you can't sell something that's already been sold. You can Google anything about us out there and it will show up. So we're already just reiterating the truth on what's been out there. So,
well, I think it's worth saying that it's kind of like the pioneer's journey. Whenever you do something, people often will say, why are you doing that? If they've never done it before. And it's usually the people who have not done anything that have the most discouragement. I mean, it's not like they haven't done tourism, they haven't done anything in their life. And those people have the most reasons why whatever you're trying to do is never going to work, and it's bad for everybody and those kind of things. So it's I kind of go along with your father. It's like, yeah, and it's like
yeah,
they're not quite a thing. And I know that's harder to say when you live in a small community, because that those are your peeps, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
unfortunately, I mean, I don't know a way around it where, like how can you get people to see the value in something without actually going ahead and doing it? And you will make mistakes. That's kind of like how you learn. So
Yeah.
I'm just happy to see that you're still in the mix.
Yes. One thing that I didn't share, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's in the living room. But for us, and this is something that I haven't really shared with a lot of people. People within organizations that we work with know this. In 2022, I'm not sure if you're familiar with IENTA. If anybody here is familiar with
Well,
IENTA,
tell us what
Alaska.
it is, because
Okay, so IENTA is it's American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Alliance, and what is it's a nonprofit organization that is building cultural tourism, and they've been since I think it's like 25 years now, so since the late 90s. And they come out of Santa Fe, or actually Albuquerque, New Mexico. And what they do is they really bring in tourism, not just through South Dakota, but all Native nations, or First Nations, if you will, or communities, including Alaska and Hawaii. So they really push the boundaries of what tourism can be. And so in 2022, me and my father were nominated for an award from the IENTA. And during the Alaska Tourism Conference 2022, we actually received the Excellence in Customer Service Award from IENTA. So, and customer service in cultural tourism looks very different from what customer service looks like for many of you. For us, it's putting that truth forward and being able to answer those questions confidently, saying that this is not the truth, and what you're here to experience is definitely that you're going to leave a mark on you somewhere. And so we of course, me and my father, we really appreciated being able to go out there to receive that. We were able to take my family, my children, my companion, and for us, it was really laying a stone for our path, and I couldn't be more appreciative to be able to receive that. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're coming up quickly on the end of our time here. I do want to mention one more time that after the 11:30, when we close out this conversation, you might want to stick around for the One Book South Dakota conversation. It'll be a short conversation, but at least people will get to know about it. But I want to maybe take the last few minutes to talk about some ways that people here can take one of your tours, support your business, uh, tell their friends. Do you have mechanisms that are, let's say, a low-hanging fruit for them to, to be able to help you?
Yes. So we have Kobe had actually put our website and our Facebook on in the link. So one of the things that what I would like to reiterate is that for us, advertisement was a big thing, and word of mouth and experience was our biggest sell. They really pushed that extra oomph for our business, and you guys need to take a tour because that was life-changing for me. So on our Facebook page, you can leave a review, even just the discussion we had today. Maybe there's some things that what I've mentioned that you think I could clean up, or maybe there's something you think I can add to my tour. Maybe there's something that you just want to leave there. And what that does is that really boosts business for us, as well as not just the business of making money, but getting us to the top so that we can continue our work. So not only do we do tour guides, but we also just finished up today a buffalo hide tanning workshop at our local youth center, and it was free to the public. One Spirit, if anybody's familiar with One Spirit, they have 99 programs, and they do a lot of in-kind donations to the reservation, and so they actually paid for this workshop, along with some of our previous visitors had sent out donations to them so that we can get this workshop done. So we've taught the traditional method, and we also do wood donations. So we go out, myself, my father, my companion, my niece, my nephews, we go out and we collect firewood for people who can't afford it. And the way we do that is through donations. We're able to, for the gas, for the equipment, to pay the workers so that these families can, heat themselves during the winter. We also, people send clothing donations. Some people come out and take a tour, to see who Lakota people are. And the best way I can tell you is not from reading a book, watching a movie, but to actually experience Lakota country and what that looks like. And I encourage you, if you're in the area, not just my area, the other reservations, visit the people. People there are, they're welcoming. You just have to be able to meet them halfway. So, come to the area, look at some of the links that are on there, and just spread the word. This is how we got it done in the first 5 years of our business. So we really rely on even the discussions we have. So
yeah. So in our last minute or so, I didn't see in the chat, but is there a place where any events like powwows or festivals or art shows and things like that are happening on the various reses, is there a calendar and contact list that is in the chat now? Or can we get it?
There isn't one in there unless Kobe has one, but the Pioneer Area Chamber of Commerce, typically what they'll do is they'll put up like a listing of things that are coming up in 2024 for the summer, and they'll put it on their website. I do know that they're still active on the media portion of it. They're not open fully, but they are still active. And so many of those powwows, those meetings, town hall meetings, whatever we're doing here on the reservation, events, feeds, things like that will show up on the Pioneer Area Chamber of Commerce Facebook page and their link at the bottom in the chat box.
Okay.
And
so
we'll also be adding that to our website too soon. So
okay, great. Because that was one of the things I noticed when I was years ago when I was more involved in that kind of thing, is that a lot of people wanted to do things, but they didn't have a point of contact. This was back in the 90s, but they didn't have a point of contact, so they didn't know how to do it. And there were a few people who tried, but it would go for a while and then kind of falter. So whatever people can find to make that contact, and I do strongly support the idea of actually getting to know individuals, go there and make some friends, just like you make friends in other places. I know some people, they don't have any friends, but you can approach people, and if you're there enough, you get to know somebody, and make, how do you say, make a friend.
Yes.
We are at the end of our program. Thank you so much, Tianna, for sharing your business and sharing what you're trying to do. You will see me again, I'm pretty sure. Well, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. But thank you so much for coming and sharing. And I hope all of you will try to do some kind of interesting things on the reses. We are now going to turn our conversation to Jennifer. Jennifer, that's Jennifer that just held up her hand. Talk to us. Tell us about one book.
Well, I'm really excited to thank you, Lawrence, and I want to second your thanks and everyone else's thanks to Tianna. What a fascinating business, and I hope that I get a chance to take one of the tours sometimes. It sounds moving and educational, and all of that wrapped into one. So thank you. And yes, I appreciate all of you who are here on Zoom joining us today, and those who might be watching on Facebook. I am, as Lawrence said, I'm Jennifer Widman. I am the director of the South Dakota Center for the Book, and I am very excited on this shortest day of the year to be able to share a little figurative light with you with the exciting announcement of what I think is just an incredible choice for the 2024 One Book South Dakota Today. And not only will I be able to share the title with you, but the author is joining us, and we'll be able to just have a few minutes of chat with him to start getting an idea of what we're in for in the coming year. So I won't make you wait any longer. The One Book South Dakota selection for 2024 is Little and Often by Trent Presler. And it is a gorgeous memoir, trust me. It hit #1 on the Amazon Books bestsellers list. It was a best book of 2021 in USA Today, and we could probably list multiple other various kinds of awards. But yes, it is absolutely a really gorgeous book. I'm going to tell you a few things about Trent, and then I'm going to chat with him a bit. So Trent grew up primarily on a cattle ranch in western South Dakota, attending a one-room schoolhouse near the Standing Rock Reservation. He received a bachelor's degree from Iowa State University and was awarded a Rotary Scholarship to the UK and a diploma from the Royal Botanic Garden. He had a White House internship for President Bill Clinton, and after that, he earned a master's in agricultural economics and a PhD in horticulture from Cornell University. So already we've got a wide variety of experiences. And then for 20 years, he was the CEO of a Long Island winery, Bedell Cellars. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but he will correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong. During that time, he also served as chairman of the board for both the New York Wine and Grape Foundation and Wine America, the National Association of American Wineries. In 2014, he established Presler Woodshop, creating bespoke wooden canoes that are truly works of art, functional works of art. And this inspired not only the memoir that we are reading this year, Little and Often, but also a Newsday documentary about his life that won a 2017 New York Emmy Award for Best Lifestyle Feature. And Trent, or should I call him at this moment, Dr. Presler, is currently a professor of practice in the Charles H. Dyson School of Applied Economics and Management at Cornell University, where he teaches 5 courses in Dyson's Grand Challenges program. His research and teaching are focused on sustainable business practices within the agricultural and forestry sectors, plus diversity and equity in the outdoor recreation economy. So welcome, Trent. Thank you for being here.
Wow. Well, thank you for having me. What an introduction. Oh my goodness. So I have to say I got goosebumps when you announced it. You know, I'm a child of South Dakota, but I haven't been back a whole lot in the last few years. So learning about this honor is so exciting for me. I get to come back to South Dakota and meet people and travel around the state talking about my book, and sharing my story with more people who I think can really relate to it. Yeah, I grew up, my folks had a ranch that was halfway between Faith and Lemon, South Dakota, way up there in the middle of nowhere. I went to a one-room schoolhouse called the Athboy School, which is no longer there. There was this Berkeley anthropologist in the 90s who had done this study about the most remote place in the United States. And the metric that he used in his statistical analysis was which coordinates, which latitude and longitude in the US are the farthest away from a McDonald's drive-through. And he used that as his barometer of like, what really counts as the boondocks, right? And the coordinates of the most remote place on Earth in the United States were my parents' ranch, north of Faith. I guess it was, I don't know how, 40 some miles from Rapid City from the nearest McDonald's. So anyway, I'm so honored to be part of this, to share more about my story and have more people read my book. Yeah, it's just a thrill. So thanks for having me. And I'm also glad I got to catch the tail end of that last presentation. That was wonderful.
Well, that's great. I'm so honored to have you joining us here, and I'm really looking forward to what will happen this year. As most of you know, because he's the One Book South Dakota author, Trent will be joining us at the Festival of Books next fall. It's September 20th through the 22nd in Brookings. And we're also going to be working out some details for a tour of the state that will probably take place in the summer, perhaps late June or early July. We'll hammer that out as we go through, but we're looking forward to having him back. I just want to ask a couple quick questions to give people a flavor of the book, those who haven't read it. This book actually grew out of a really difficult time in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about the events and the emotions that sparked your writing?
Yeah, well, it's like, where do I begin? My sister, who suffered from a debilitating neurological disorder her whole life, died when she was about 25, and my father died of cancer kind of shortly thereafter, and I had gone through a divorce and came out of the closet, and just like this whole cascade of shit happened in my life, right? And a lot of great art comes out of a lot of great pain. But when I was estranged from my father for many years, we barely spoke. But about 2 weeks before he died of cancer, he called and invited me home for Thanksgiving. So I came from New York and went back for Thanksgiving, and it ended up being the last time that I saw him alive. And after he died, my mom, took me into the garage and kind of pointed at this beat up old toolbox sitting on the bench in the garage and said, "That's your inheritance." So I drove back to New York with a taxidermy duck and a toolbox from my dad. And that was kind of it. It was like he was a rodeo star and a cattle rancher, and he occupied this larger than life space in my mind. But all I had left of him was this humble rancher's toolbox and a duck. So anyway, I was living on the ocean at the time on Long Island, where my winery was located. And it was February, like this historic blizzard. We got 5 feet of snow, and I was snowed in for a whole week and kind of losing my mind and just staring out at the frozen bay in front of my house. And I decided I was going to build a wooden boat with my dad's tools, which would allow me to paddle across the bay in front of my house. Total lark, driven, I think, by a lot of pain and just a lot of unanswered grief that I had and questions that I had about my father and my family. So the book chronicles the next year of my life where I build this boat. I built this canoe. So the book all takes place in that year in 2015, and then spoiler alert, I finished the boat. There's a picture of it on the cover of the book, on the back jacket of the book. So it's kind of a giveaway. But so yeah, the book is a journey, a story of my journey of grief and loss and understanding, and kind of reckoning with I think the things that were left unsaid with me and my father as I used his tools to build this boat. So yeah, you'll have to read it to get to the gut punch at the end. I won't reveal it.
And I will say, when you read it, you will have your moments when you do wonder if that boat's ever going to get finished.
Yeah. Yes.
You jumped in with both feet, without any experience, and learned by a whole lot of trial and error. So
yeah. Actually, and the boat is sitting right out here in my backyard because we're doing some renovations. So it's just sitting. I won't turn the phone around to show you, but it's right there. So yeah, I mean, there were times when I wondered if I was going to finish too, and certainly that led to my inspiration for writing the book. It was like finishing the boat was only half of the learning, I think, journey. And then I had to write it down, to put it on paper, was kind of put the exclamation point on it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to say that one of the reasons we chose this book is it's just the number one thing we're always looking for is a text that is just rich with topics for discussion. And this is, I mean, there are issues of place, there are issues of belonging, identity, grief, obviously, creativity, in various ways, and of course, relationships. And, you know, one of the biggest, of course, is the primary one is your relationship with your father. But of course, mother-son interactions, sibling connections, all of those are in there. How did that sort of develop for you? Did you know, I'm sure you started knowing that your father would be a big part of it, but did you know how much further that web would go?
Oh, gosh, no, I didn't quite. I mean, I had a really good editor at HarperCollins who helped me with that. And for the first draft, he said, I just want you to write everything down and basically tell me everything, and then let me decide how, you know, what to keep, right? And one of the challenges of a memoir, of course, is deciding what is the golden thread of the story that you're trying to tell. Because like 95% of life is drinking your Starbucks coffee, and in New York anyway, complaining about traffic or complaining about real estate prices. But like, people don't want to read a book that's 95% about the mundane parts of life. So my challenge as a first-time author was figuring out what are the little golden nuggets of my story that I want to tell. And then everything else kind of had to go away, right? So there are a lot of friends and family members and events in my life that are not in the book, because I'm telling a story about primarily about my relationship with my father and my family, and the healing power of creativity. So that kind of developed as I worked on it, worked through the drafts with my editor. I think we took about 2 years of back and forth in editing before we got to a final draft. So it unfolded in a way that now I'm looking back. You know, it's funny, you talk to writers and sometimes like you're so embarrassed by your first draft and you can't believe you even wrote that it's the same person that wrote your first draft. But I look back on my first draft sometimes and I think, gosh, I have really had to focus, and I really had to learn how, if you want to tell a powerful story, you also have to learn how to focus. And I saw one of the comments from someone just below a second ago was, why did I call it Little and Often? Which I cannot reveal. You have to earn that in the book. It's worth it, I promise.
I'm quite sure Pam will read the book, right, Pam? So, yes, absolutely. Well, one other thing I want to mention, since you are coming back to the state a couple of times this year, this book came out in, I think, early 2021, correct?
Yeah, April 21.
Yeah, and so we're still in the pandemic at that point. you were able to join us at the Festival of Books in 2022, but only on a virtual level. So I feel like still your opportunities to discuss this book in person with South Dakotans in South Dakota have been somewhat limited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, is there anything you're really looking forward to about the travels back that you will be doing in 2024?
Yeah, well, I always feel like I got ripped off, right? I didn't, because of COVID, I didn't get a proper book tour. We had all this stuff planned, and then my book came out in April of 2021, and like, you know, I had some great launch stuff. My friend Nick Offerman, the actor from Parks and Rec, he did a Zoom for his 2 million Twitter followers, and so we did some Zoom stuff to launch it. And I did another one with Matt Bomer, who read my audiobook. But nothing is the same as, nothing can ever substitute for talking to people in person. And I've done quite a few book signings in the years since then, but you know, nothing really in South Dakota. I've gone around to a few bookstores. The paperback came out in April of 2022. And by that point, I'd moved on to a new job, and I'm working on my next book. So, you know, it was kind of just like, I never really got the book tour that a lot of authors get. So I'm excited about this. I get to go back and talk to real people who've read the book and who have questions for me in person, and even being in some of the physical places that I mentioned in the book and that I talk about. You know, in some ways it's a love letter to Long Island and New York, but it's a love letter to South Dakota, and the geography of the place and the beauty of the place influences a lot of my writing. And it'll be really fun and interesting, I think, for me to be back in that environment, talking to people. So thank you for that opportunity.
Well, we're excited. We're all looking forward to welcoming you back to the state, to talking about the book, to asking you some questions that we don't have time to get to today. But I really thank you for giving us this little hint of the book. And I know there's a lot of people getting ready and getting excited to read it. I want to say that I hope all of you will pay attention to sdhumanities.org. If you watch there, you'll get more details on how to host a book discussion. We've got lending library copies on order. And you'll also have some details about how to get involved in the tour there as well, once we've got those figured out. And I do want to make one more note, and that is, keep your ears and eyes open in the new year to hear about the book we'll be sharing with South Dakota third graders as our 2024 Young Readers One book. We'll be sharing that a little bit after the new year. So that's still to come. But for now, we're just really going to celebrate little and often. And we're looking forward to all the extra time we'll have to talk with you, Trent, and to talk about your experiences. So I want to say thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everyone else who joined us online.
Thanks for having me. It means so much.
Yes.
And I can't wait to come back and see you all in person. And we'll give Little and Often a second life.
That sounds wonderful. That will be our goal. Thank you so much. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of this solstice day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.